Hey guys, and welcome back to the third part of the bash script tutorial. In this video we will talk about the file system and file permissions. So the file system is a kind of structure organized with the collection of files or folders. It actually determines control over data, that is how the data is to be stored and retrieved whenever we need it. And Linux file system is a tree-like structure comprised of lots of directories. Now these directories are just like files containing the list of other files, and all the files in the Linux file system are known as directories or directories. The first one is we have the ordinary files that contain data, text, images, program instructions. Then we have something called special files. These give access to the hardware devices. And then we have directories that contain both the ordinary as well as the special files. So the files, either ordinary or the special, both of them are contained within directories. Now let's have a look on our Linux file system. So I will just open my Ubuntu, and now let's list all the files and directories in the current working directory. Let's see what is the present working directory. It's home and then the user. Now let's list all the files and directories within this folder. So for that I will use ls -l command. Now you can observe that we have 7 columns here. This is the first column, this is the second, this is the third, this is the fourth, this is the fifth, this is the sixth, and this is the 7th column. So there are total 7 columns. The first column represents the file type and the file permissions. If we look at the first character, it defines the type of the file. If it is a regular file, then it will have a hyphen or a dash like this. If it is a directory, then it will have a D. So which means this desktop is a directory, it's not a file. In the same way, if we have a link, then it will have a L here, and if it is a special file, then it will have a C here. So this is the first character in the first column. Then the second column represents the number of memory blocks. The third column represents the owner of the file or the super user who has the administrating power over this file or the directory. Then the fourth column represents the group of owner or the super user. The fifth column represents the file size, the amount of storage space this file is occupying on the disk. Then the sixth column is the date or the time when the file was created or last modified. And then finally the last column represents the name of the file or the directory. So you can see these are the files and the folders or the directories that I have. Now let's talk about the file permissions. In Linux based operating system, we have permissions to secure its file system, and Linux secures its file system with basically 2 authorization attributes which are given below. The first attribute is the permissions. Now the permissions can be of 3 types. It can be read permission, that is denoted by R, by which you can view the content of the file. Then the second permission is write, which is denoted by RW, by which you can modify the file content. Then the third one is execute, and it is denoted by X, and this is the permission by which you can run the programming file or the script. Then the second attribute is the ownership. Now owner is the super user who creates the file. He can access all the permissions associated with a file, that includes reading, modifying, and running the file. Then we have group, which is known as a set of users or a multi-users. The super user creates a group. Every member in a group has the same access permissions associated with the file. Then the last one is other users, that is the third party users, which can be anybody else who doesn't belong to the super user or the group members. Now let's try to understand the concept of permission and ownership by an example. So this is the list of the directories and the files in my tanz folder. Now let's talk about the first file, this one 123.sh. Now when we are talking about this file, the first slot here is a hyphen, which signifies or identifies that 123.sh is a file. Then the next three slot, that is rwx, represents the permissions for the assigned owner. So here in my case, the owner or the user has the permission read, write as well as execute. Then the next three slots are for the permission to be used by the group members who own the directory. Here also I have defined read, write, execute. Then the last three slots are used to specify the permissions which are to be used by the third-party users. And here they have the permission to read and execute and not to write. We can take the example of this file also. Here you can see it is a file because it is having an hyphen or a dash at the first slot. Then it has the permission of read, write and execute for the owner or the user. Then it has read and write permission without the execute permission for the group members who own the directory. And then finally for the third party users, it only has the read permission, not write or execute. So this is how we read and understand the ownership as well as the permissions of the files and the directories. Now let's talk about how we can alter these file permissions for each class by using chmod command, which stands for change mode. So you can alter or change or update the file permissions for each class, that is user, group or others, by using change mode command. The basic form to remove or add any permission for any class is chmod, that is change mode. Then we have to specify the class. A class can be U, G, O or A. U is for the user, G is for the group, O is for other, and then A is for all the classes. Then we have to specify the operator. Operator can be a plus or a minus depending upon whether you want to grant the permission or you want to remove the permission. So if you want to grant the permission, then you will have to use a plus sign or a plus operator. If you want to revoke the permission, then you will have to use the minus operator. Then we have to specify the permission, which kind of permission you want to grant or revoke, like you want to grant the read or write or execute, or you want to grant all three of them, or you want to revoke all three of them. So this is the place where we define that. Then finally space, and then we define the name of the file. So let's see an example of how to grant or change the permission. So let's talk about any one of the file from here. Let's say we'll talk about this one, 123.sh. So to change the permission, we have to write chmod, that is change mode, then space. Then let's say I want to revoke the permission for the other group, and I want to revoke this permission, the execute permission. So here I will write O, and since I have to revoke the permission, I'll have to write minus, and I'm revoking the execute permission, so that is X. Then space, then we have to give the name of the file, that is 123.sh. Then hit enter, and now we have to run ls space minus L once again. And now you can observe that the X, the execute permission, has been taken away from the other group from this file, that is 123.sh. You can compare it with this one. Earlier it had the execute permission, now it doesn't have the execute permission. In the same way, we can modify or change or update the permissions of different files or directories as and when we require. And also, since we are on the topic of file types and extensions, I'll just briefly explain the other way to create a script without using a shebang. So we have seen the first way, that is by creating a script and then we added the shebang as the first line in the script. And when we are creating a script with a shebang, we need not specify the extension with the file. But if we are specifying the extension of the file as .sh, then we don't have to use the shebang. So we have to follow either of these two methods. Obviously, we can create a file with the .sh extension and add the shebang also. It will work perfectly fine. But this is the other way. So I just want to show this before I conclude this video. So let's say I'll just create a file quickly. Let's say vim temp1.sh, and you can see I'm creating the file with .sh extension this time. So it has the extension, so I need not create the shebang this time. Enter the insert mode and then add echo. So then escape :w, then :q. File has been closed. Now we have to change the permission to run this file. temp1.sh, enter. Now we can run this file temp1.sh, and you can see we have the message, this file is without any shebang, which means the script has run perfectly fine. So this is what I wanted to explain. In the previous example where we were working with the temp file, in this temp file we had used the shebang as the first line and we did not add any extension here, and it was working fine. In our new example, we added the extension to the file name, but we did not add any shebang in the file, and this one also worked perfectly fine. So these are two ways in which we can create the bash script and run them without having any error or problem. And of course you can have both of them together. You can have a .sh extension as well as you can add the shebang in the file. That will also work perfectly fine, but the choice is yours. And with this we finish this video also. So I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.